What if Terraform could pull secrets directly and securely as you deploy? Managing credentials can feel clunky and error-prone. In this demo, I'll show you how Akeyless integrates seamlessly with Terraform to create secrets, roles, and auth methods, and then use them to provision AWS resources like DynamoDB. Let's jump in. We are going to start with part 1 under the demo folder and part 1. So let's navigate to that. Part 1. From here, let's run Terraform init and run Terraform plan. As you can see, we have 8 resources that we're just about to plan here. And let's go ahead and run Terraform apply and say yes. If I run Terraform state list, you see we created an Akeyless associate role auth method, an auth method API key, a role, and a few static secrets, and of course some random password that were generated here. So you can see also from the outputs where we created those inside of Akeyless. So the auth method was under the Terraform demo folder and it's called auth method. The database config path is under Terraform demo static db config, and so on and so forth. It's probably much easier to jump into Akeyless directly and go to items and look at the secrets first, and we put those in Terraform demo. So you can see under the folder static, we have API key, which we won't use in this demo, but just showing you that we can create a bunch of secrets. We have db config. You can see some configuration here for the database. And then finally, a database password, which is what we're going to use to create the DynamoDB in AWS in our next part of our demo. And then we have our authentication methods. You can see they were created here. One authentication method, as you can see here. And there is an access role associated with it, also in Terraform demo role. And here you go. It's associated with this auth method that we just created. And it has a rule that allows us to read those static secrets that we just created. Because what we're going to do is go to that authentication method we just created and grab or reset the access key to grab the credentials. I didn't want to output those credentials in Terraform because that will store those credentials in Terraform state file. So there's no need for that. We can just reset the access key here. And now we have the access key ID and access key secret itself. So we can copy those and move on to our second part of our demo, which is under the folder part 2 infrastructure. And under terraform.tf vars, we can now update our secrets here. This terraform.tf vars file is in .gitignore, so it won't be pushed to Git. In prod, you would use AWS dynamic secrets from Akeyless and use a pipeline that integrates with Akeyless, so we don't have any secrets in this file. But I'm keeping things simple here. I need the Akeyless access ID here, and then we need also the access key, so copy that and put it in here. And I already have my AWS credentials here, so that's good to go. So now we can create a new terminal and navigate into, let me pull up the main.tf for you here. I'll explain the Terraform config at the end of this video, but for now, let's go ahead and run the second part of the demo. So change directory to demo and part 2. And once again, run Terraform init. Terraform plan. As you can see, we have 4 resources that are going to get created. And really, we are creating a DynamoDB table with a few items inside of that table. So go ahead and run Terraform apply. And when prompted, we're going to type yes. And now this is going to go and create the DynamoDB table inside of AWS and add some items to it. And it's going to retrieve the necessary secrets from Akeyless that we injected in the first part of the demo. And we see it has successfully finished, and we see some outputs here. I can run Terraform state list, It'll show me what got created. So we accessed the Akeyless secrets here using the data blocks. And then we used the AWS DynamoDB table with AWS DynamoDB table item to insert some items into the table. So if you go back to our browser and jump into our AWS and refresh over here, we see Terraform demo table created. And if we go into it, you can see it's been created here, and we can also explore the items in that table. As you can see, a few items have been created, and we've just added some items here for you to see the API key source, database credential source, where all of that is stored inside of Akeyless. Just a quick example to show you how that all works. Now, if I jump back here and talk about the two phases or two parts, the point that I wanted to make is that we can leverage the Akeyless provider inside of Terraform to create items inside of Akeyless. These items can be secrets. They can be access roles. So you can see here's the access role we created. They can be, here's a static secret and a bunch of static secrets that we saw before. But the auth method is actually over here, right? We're using the API key auth method. So we created that. We created an Akeyless role and we created an association between the auth method and the Akeyless role. And in the Akeyless role, we have one rule for capability to read and list from that specific folder Terraform demo static, anything inside of that, so that when we reset the credentials for this particular auth method, we can feed that into the second part of the demo. And the point of the second part of the demo is to demonstrate to you how now we can also use Terraform not only to generate resources inside of Akeyless, but also to retrieve secrets directly from Akeyless as we're building resources inside of a cloud like AWS. So in this case, we are leveraging the provider Akeyless and also the AWS provider and the random provider. But in this case, we are using the data block with Akeyless secret to retrieve these three secrets here. And you can see the path for each one of those secrets right here, the API key, the database password, and the database config. And from here, we are leveraging our AWS DynamoDB table to create a resource, a DynamoDB table resource inside of AWS. And you can see we're using the tags here with merge, with some of the tags that we want to put in here with the local variables that we defined up here. So database config, API key, and database password, these are all masked. And also the items that we want to insert inside of the DynamoDB table are found here. We're using a count of 3 and referencing the DynamoDB table we created and filling those items inside of that. The key thing to notice is when we created the DynamoDB table, we leveraged secrets that were stored in Akeyless. And this was done via the locals variable here, which basically grabbed the data that was retrieved from Akeyless from the data blocks here. And we changed the data a little bit. And then using those locals, we fed that inside of the DynamoDB table. So table name, billing mode, hash key, and so on. And that pretty much sums the config. We can now go ahead and delete what we created and clean up. And it's key to clean up the opposite way we've created. So we got to go out and run Terraform destroy first for part 2, and then run Terraform destroy for part 1. The reason for that is if you do it in the reverse order and you do Terraform destroy in part 1 first, you're going to lose your access and you don't want to do that. So that's the right order, and the infrastructure has already been destroyed. We can go back and double check that and go into DynamoDB tables and refresh, and our Terraform DB table is gone. We can also check on Akeyless and we can look up the auth methods. Terraform demo is gone. The access role, that is also gone. And the items that we had here for the Terraform demo, that is also gone as well. So we were able to clean up nicely. If you're interested in looking more into the Akeyless Terraform provider. You can find it here. I'll link this in the description of the video where you can look up some of the resources. And this is basically what I use to create the secrets inside of Akeyless, the Akeyless role. As you can see, I was just looking that up, and the auth methods, of course. You can see the auth method association with the role that I just mentioned. Here's how to create the auth method. And finally, if you want to look up the retrieval of secrets, you can look that up in the data side of things. So if you scroll to data sources, you should be able to see how you can retrieve a static secret like here, similar to what we did in our config. But now you can see what is possible through the Terraform Akeyless provider. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.